Okay, this recording is going to be for number 8, which I was going to do in the last one, but we took too long with 7. So this will be at least for number 8. We'll do number 9 if we have time. So in this one we have another for loop, and just a reminder, when you get to this for loop right here, you have 3 arguments. The first time through the for loop, you do the first argument, the second argument, which decides whether you go into the loop or not. And then after that, you're going to go to the third argument, and then you go into the second argument, or the middle argument, and that determines whether you go into the loop or not. So that's the order you'll always go through. Easy to remember. So int, right now, n is assigned or initialized. It's 1. So k is declared but not assigned. So right now, this is empty. So we go to the for loop, and we do the very first argument, which establishes k to be true. So that's when it gets assigned, is at the first argument of the for loop, always. And so we don't want to keep assigning it that value 2 every time we come back to the for loop. So that's why it's only done the first time. So it's assigned 2, and then we go to the middle argument, and it says is 2 less than or equal to 5, which it is true. So therefore, that tells us now to go into the loop. So we always go to the loop from the middle argument. Now here we're going to assign n to be something. N is going to be assigned to the value of k, which in the memory location says it's a 2, minus 2 times 3. Order of operations says do multiplication first. So we're actually going to do 2 minus 6, which is a negative 4. Is this going to work? So the next line down says we're going to print k, the value of k, which is 2, and then it says print a space, and then print the value of n, which is at this point negative 4. So that's what's going to print on that line. The next line of code is the brace that tells us to go back to the for loop. So we go back to the for loop, and we enter now the for loop. From now on, we're going to enter it on the third argument, and so we're going to increase k by 1, so it becomes 3. And then we're going to go to the middle argument and see is 3 less than or equal to 5, which it is. So since that's true, we go into the loop. N is now assigned 3, because k is 3 now according to the memory location, minus 6. So now n is changing to negative 3. The next line down says to print k, which is now 3, according to the memory location, a space, and then print n again, because there's no quotes around n and k, so we don't print those letters. We print the values of those variables. And so n is negative 3. The next line is the ending brace of the for loop, which tells us to go back to the for loop. We enter in by the third argument again, which tells us to increase k by 1. We go now to this middle argument, and k is now 4. And is 4 less than or equal to 5? Well, yes it is. So we go back into the loop, and now k, it's 4 minus 6, which is now negative 2. You can begin to see a pattern here, I hope. And then, so n is changed to negative 2. Now we print k and n again. So k is 4. We print the space, because it says print, you're printing blank space, and then you have negative 2. Well, I think at this point we really should be able to see that the next thing we're going to do is that k is going to be 5 as we go back to the loop and enter by the third argument. And then 5, of course, is going to be less than or equal to 5, so that's still true. We jump back in the loop, so n is now going to be assigned whatever k is, which is now 5 minus 6, which so that becomes -1. So you can see how everything is just adding, increasing by 1 here. Oops, that's not a good thing. So again, we hit this statement here, which tells us to print the k, which is 5, and the n, the space, and then the n, which is -1. At this point, we now hit this ending brace for the loop, and we're going to go back to the for loop. And as we come back to this for loop, we again enter by the third argument. And the third argument says to, again, to add 1 to k, so now k is 6. We go to the middle argument to see if we go into the loop or not, and the question is 6 less than or equal to 5, which now it's false. So false then tells us that we got to kick out of the loop. And so if you go past the loop, there are no more statements, no more lines of code. So we are done. This is all that we print on the screen. Okay, we're going to now do number 9. And so in number 9, we see that we have the int sum is initialized to be 0. And the k is not been initialized yet. It's just been declared. So we have our memory locations going. We go to the for loop. For loop, again, first argument, middle argument, then the loop, first time only. And so we now initialize k, or assign it to be 0. And then is 0 less than 5 right here? And yes, it is. So that tells us to go into the loop. And the loop says to assign something. Now, if you remember, the example we did in number 6 is that count plus -2 or plus equals 2 means to add 2 to this variable. So you're going to add 2 to this variable. So we're going to add k to sum. So sum is 0 and k is 0. And so sum is actually assigned to be 0, which it already is, so we'll leave it right there. Now, the for loop ends here. So this tells us to go back to for. We don't see this statement yet. And so we enter in from now on from the third argument to the middle to the loop. So the third argument says to increase k by 1, so we increase it by 1. The second argument asks, is k, which is now 1 according to the memory location, is it less than 5? Which is true. We jump into the loop. We're going to take the sum, which is still 0, and we're going to add k to it. So we're going to add 1. So sum is now 0 plus 1, so it becomes 1. The next line is the ending brace. Go back to for, enter in by the third argument. We increase k by 1, it now becomes 2. Now we go over to the middle argument and ask the question, is 2 less than 5? It is. We go into the loop. We're going to assign sum, which is now 1. We're going to add k to the value of sum right now. Well, k is 2. So the sum is 1. So sum is 1 plus 2. So now the sum becomes 3. We go into the brace. We go to the ending brace. Tells us to go back to the for. We enter by the third argument. We add 1 to the k again, and so it becomes 3. And then 3 is going to be applied here. Is k less than 5? Well, k is now 3 according to the memory location, and it is less than 5. So we're going to go back to the loop again. Now the sum is 3 at this point, and we're going to add k. Well, k is 3 at this point as well. So we're going to add k and assign it to sum. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So the sum is 6. So we're adding 3 to sum. We're adding 3 to the 3, which makes it 6. Ending brace tells us go back to the for statement. So again, we go back to the for statement by entering in by the third argument. The third argument says to add 1 to k, and so k now becomes 4. The question as it goes to the middle argument is 4 less than 5. Well, it's still true. We jump in here, and now we're going to take whatever the value of sum is, it's going to be added to and assigned. So it is now 6, and we're going to add k to it and assign that to sum. So that's 10. So sum is now 10. The next line down is the brace, closing brace for the 4. We go back up to 4. We enter by the third argument. Third argument says to increase that by 1. Increase k by 1. We do. Then we go into the middle term, or middle argument. The question is, k is 5 less than 5, because k is now 5. Well, this is false. So now we can kick out of the loop. And the loop, of course, ends right here. The next statement after the loop is a print statement to print whatever sum is. Well, the value of sum is currently, according to the memory location, 10. So that's it. We are done.